They built massive monuments without metal tools, wheels, or written language, structures so precise that they still puzzle archaeologists today. Yet, most people have never heard of them. Who were the mysterious mound builders of North America, and how did they create such incredible feats of engineering? The truth might challenge everything you thought you knew about ancient America. A remarkable civilization thrived long before European explorers set foot in North America. Although they didn't leave towering stone pyramids or written records behind, their creations still speak volumes. The Mound Builders, a collective term for the indigenous cultures of ancient North America, constructed massive earthworks that were part of their religious, social, and political lives. But here's the twist: some of these mounds date back thousands of years, long before the famous Mayan or Aztec civilizations reached their peak. How did they manage to build such massive structures with seemingly limited tools? And why were they abandoned? Let's unravel the story of the Mound Builders and their lasting impact. The Mound Builders faced challenges that would intimidate even modern engineers. They built massive structures entirely out of earth, often transporting thousands of tons of soil by hand. These mounds weren't just piles of dirt. They were carefully designed to serve specific purposes, from burials to astronomical alignments. But how did they organize such massive projects without written records or advanced tools? And why did they dedicate so much time and energy to constructing these mounds? To understand this, we must look at the different cultures that contributed to this tradition and the purposes behind their monumental works. The Adena culture, 1000 BC 200 CE, the pioneers. The Adena culture is often regarded as the foundation of North America's mound building tradition. Emerging around 1000 BCE in the Ohio River Valley, they were among the earliest societies to transform the natural landscape into a canvas for their beliefs, rituals, and social systems. Though the Adena people were not as well known as their successors, their contributions laid the groundwork for the incredible architectural, cultural, and social advancements that followed. But who were the Adena, and how did their society develop into one capable of creating such monumental works? The Adena culture was not a unified group, but a collection of communities spread across the Ohio River Valley and neighboring regions, including parts of present-day West Virginia, Kentucky, and Indiana. These communities were relatively small, with populations ranging from a few dozen to several hundred people. Despite their modest size, they demonstrated remarkable ingenuity and creativity. The Adena was semi-nomadic, relying on hunting, gathering, and early agriculture. They cultivated crops like squash, sunflower, and possibly maize, but wild resources such as nuts, berries, and game animals remained central to their diet. This blend of foraging and farming allowed them to settle in semi-permanent villages while maintaining the flexibility to move as needed. Their homes were typically circular structures made of wooden poles covered with bark or woven mats. These dwellings were simple but effective, reflecting their deep understanding of their environment and its resources. Over time, these settlements became hubs of activity, trade, and cultural development, setting the stage for constructing their iconic mounds. The Adena are best known for their burial mounds, among North America's first large-scale earthworks. These mounds were not random piles of dirt. They were carefully planned and constructed with specific purposes in mind. The primary function of Adena mounds was burial. They often were the final resting place for important individuals, such as leaders or spiritual figures. The mounds varied from small, modest structures to massive works like the Miamisburg Mound in Ohio, which stands nearly 70 feet tall and covers over an acre. Before building a mound, the Adena created a small, flat earth platform. They then placed the deceased in a central grave, often accompanied by grave goods such as tools, jewelry, and ceremonial objects. The grave was covered with layers of earth, which were compacted to create a stable structure. Over time, additional burials might be added, and the mound would grow larger. The mounds were more than burial sites, they were spiritual monuments. The Adena believed in an afterlife, and the inclusion of grave goods suggests they thought the deceased would need these items in the next world. Many artifacts found in Adena mounds, such as intricately carved stone pipes and copper jewelry, were not just practical, they were works of art that held deep spiritual meaning. Some mounds, like the Great Serpent Mound, suggest a broader purpose beyond burial. This famous earthwork, shaped like a coiled serpent, is over 1,300 feet long and aligns with celestial events such as the solstices. While the exact purpose of the serpent mound is still debated, it likely held religious or astronomical significance, showing Indigenous' sophisticated understanding of their world. Building massive earthworks without modern machinery is no small feat. The Indigenous relied on simple stone, bone, and wood tools. These tools were used to dig, shape, and transport soil, carried in baskets to the construction site. The precision of their mounds suggests careful planning and coordination. Archaeologists have found evidence that different soil types were layered to increase stability and prevent erosion. This level of engineering, combined with their knowledge of astronomy, shows that the Indigenous were far more advanced than they might initially seem. Constructing mounds required physical labor and a high degree of social organization. The Indigenous must have had leaders or spiritual figures who directed these efforts and a shared belief system that motivated people to participate. The burial mounds also reflect a society with social stratification. Not everyone was buried in a mound. Only individuals of high status received such treatment. Including elaborate grave goods further highlights the existence of an elite class. The Indigenous were skilled artisans who created beautiful, intricate works that provided insight into their culture and beliefs. Some of the most famous Indigenous artifacts are stone pipes carved into the shapes of animals and humans. These pipes were likely used in ceremonial contexts, possibly as offerings or in rituals. Copper, which the Indigenous acquired through trade networks stretching as far as the Great Lakes, was another critical material. They fashioned it into beads, bracelets, and other ornaments, often incorporating intricate designs that held spiritual significance. Their art wasn't just decorative, it was deeply symbolic. Many of their designs feature animals like birds and snakes, which may have represented spiritual forces or connections to the natural world. The Indigenous were not an isolated culture. Archaeological evidence shows they were part of a vast trade network across much of eastern North America. This network allowed them to acquire materials like copper from the Great Lakes, marine shells from the Gulf Coast, and obsidian from the Rocky Mountains. These trade connections weren't just about goods, they also facilitated the exchange of ideas, technologies, and cultural practices. For example, Indigenous mound building tradition may have influenced or been influenced by other contemporary cultures, such as the Hopewell. This interconnectedness highlights the complexity and sophistication of their society. By around 200 CE, the Indigenous culture began to decline. The reasons for this are unclear, but several factors likely played a role. Environmental changes, resource depletion, and shifts in trade networks may have contributed to their decline. Additionally, the rise of the Hopewell culture, which built on many Indigenous traditions, suggests that the Indigenous didn't disappear but evolved into or were absorbed by new cultural groups. The Indigenous' influence can still be seen in the traditions of later mound building cultures. Their techniques, artistic styles, and spiritual beliefs laid the foundation for the incredible achievements of the Hopewell, Mississippians, and other indigenous peoples of North America. For centuries, the achievements of the Indigenous and other mound building cultures were overlooked or misunderstood. Early European settlers often attributed the mounds to a lost race, ignoring the clear evidence of indigenous ingenuity. Today, there is growing recognition of Indigenous contributions to history and their role in shaping the cultural landscape of North America. Sites like the Great Serpent Mound have been preserved and studied, offering valuable insights into their society. These efforts remind us of the importance of honoring and preserving the legacies of the continent's first architects. The Indigenous culture may not have left behind written records or towering stone monuments, but their achievements speak volumes. As pioneers of mound building, they transformed the landscape of North America, creating structures that still inspire awe today. Their legacy is a reminder of ancient indigenous peoples' creativity, resilience, and ingenuity, and a testament to the rich history long before European contact. The Hopewell culture, 200 BC 500 CE, masters of complexity. The Hopewell culture flourished between 200 BCE and 500 CE and represents one of North America's most sophisticated and intriguing ancient societies. Building on the traditions of the Indigenous culture, the Hopewell people expanded the art of mound building, creating vast earthworks and ceremonial centers that continue to awe and inspire today. But the Hopewell weren't just mound builders, they were master organizers, skilled artisans, and participants in an expansive trade network that connected distant regions of the continent. Their culture remains a testament to human ingenuity and the power of collaboration. Who were the Hopewell? The Hopewell culture was not a unified empire or a single group of people. Instead, it was a network of connected communities spread across the Ohio River Valley and beyond, including parts of what are now Illinois, Indiana, and West Virginia. Unlike modern centralized states, the Hopewell were organized as a loose collection of independent communities that shared standard religious, social, and cultural practices. The name Hopewell comes from Captain Mordecai Hopewell, who owned the land in Ohio where some of the first significant archaeological finds associated with this culture were discovered. While the people did not call themselves Hopewell, the term has become a valuable way to describe this remarkable civilization's shared traditions and achievements. Their society was built on a foundation of agriculture, hunting and gathering. Corn was grown in small quantities, supplemented by nuts, seeds, berries and wild game. This mixed subsistence strategy allowed them to maintain stable communities while engaging in large-scale projects like building mounds and participating in extensive trade. The Hopewell culture is best known for its impressive earthworks, which remain some of the most complex and enigmatic structures in ancient North America. These earthworks were not merely piles of dirt, they were carefully designed geometric shapes, often aligned with celestial events and built to astonishing scales. One of the most famous Hopewell sites is the New York Earthworks in Ohio. This sprawling complex includes massive circles, octagons, and squares, some over a mile in circumference. The precision of these shapes is extraordinary, and many are aligned with lunar and solar cycles, suggesting that they served as observatories or ceremonial spaces. Another remarkable feature of the Newark site is the Great Circle Earthwork, a massive circular enclosure with a diameter of over 1,200 feet. Inside the circle is a large earthen mound that may have served as a platform for rituals or gatherings. The scale of this structure highlights the organizational skills of the Hopewell people, who likely mobilized hundreds of workers over many years to complete it. While geometric earthworks dominate the Hopewell tradition, the Hopewells also built effigy mounds shaped like animals or other forms. These mounds often had spiritual or symbolic significance, connecting the Hopewell to the natural world and their cosmological beliefs. What makes these earthworks even more impressive is that they were constructed without modern tools or machinery. The Hopewell used simple hand tools made of stone, bone, and wood to dig, shape, and move the earth. Their work's sheer scale and precision remain a mystery and a testament to their ingenuity. The Hopewell were extraordinary artisans, creating intricate works of art from materials sourced from across the continent. Their burial mounds often contained elaborate grave goods, including jewelry, pottery, and ceremonial objects, many of which were considered masterpieces. The Hopewell crafted stone pipes in various shapes, including animals like birds, bears, and fish. These pipes were not merely functional, they were works of art, often used in rituals or as offerings in burial mounds. The detail and precision of these carvings demonstrate a high level of skill and aesthetic sensibility. Copper, which the Hopewell acquired from the Great Lakes region, was shaped into delicate ornaments such as beads, bracelets, and pendants. They also used shiny, reflective mineral mica to create intricate cutouts and figurines. These materials were likely imbued with spiritual significance, symbolizing the connection between the physical and spiritual worlds. Hopewell pottery was both functional and decorative. Its ceramic vessels often featured complex designs and were used in everyday life and ceremonial contexts. The craftsmanship of these items suggests a deep appreciation for beauty and functionality. The Hopewell Trade Network. One of the most remarkable aspects of the Hopewell culture is their extensive trade network, which stretched across much of North America. Archaeologists have uncovered materials in Hopewell sites that originated thousands of miles away, including obsidian from the Rocky Mountains, copper from the Great Lakes, shells from the Gulf Coast, mica from the Appalachian Mountains, piperstone from the Midwest. This trade network wasn't just about exchanging goods, but also about sharing ideas, technologies, and cultural practices. The presence of these distant materials in Hopewell sites highlights their connections with other indigenous groups and their ability to integrate diverse influences into their own culture. The Hopewell culture was deeply spiritual, with a belief system that emphasized the connection between the natural and supernatural worlds. Their mounds and earthworks were often used for ceremonial purposes, where the living could commune with the spirits of the dead and the forces of nature. Hopewell burial mounds were elaborate structures designed to honor the deceased and provide for their journey into the afterlife. The dead were often buried with various grave goods, including tools, ornaments, and food offerings. Including such items suggests a belief in an afterlife where these possessions would be needed. Many Hopewell earthworks are aligned with celestial events, such as the solstices or lunar cycles. This alignment suggests that Hopewell had a sophisticated understanding of astronomy and used it to guide their rituals and agricultural practices. Archaeological evidence also points to the importance of communal feasting in Hopewell ceremonies. Large quantities of food remains have been found at mound sites, indicating that these gatherings were spiritual and social events that helped strengthen community bonds. Around 500 CE, the Hopewell culture began to decline, and its distinctive earthworks and artistic traditions faded. The reasons for this decline remain uncertain, but several factors may have played a role. Environmental changes, shifts in climate or resource availability may have disrupted its way of life. Social changes, the decentralized nature of Hopewell society, may have made it difficult to adapt to new challenges. Cultural evolution. The Hopewell tradition likely evolved into or was absorbed by other indigenous cultures, such as the Mississippian culture. Although the Hopewell culture itself disappeared, its legacy lives on in the traditions and practices of later indigenous peoples. Its mounds and earthworks remain as enduring monuments to its creativity, organization, and spirituality. For centuries, the achievements of the Hopewell culture were overlooked or misunderstood. Early European settlers often attributed their mounds to mythical lost civilizations, rather than recognizing them as the work of indigenous peoples. Today, there is growing recognition of the Hopewell's contributions to history. Sites like the Newark Earthworks and the Hopewell Culture National Historical Park in Ohio have been preserved and studied, offering valuable insights into their society and achievements. Efforts to honor and protect these sites ensure that the story of the Hopewell will not be forgotten. The Hopewell culture was more than a collection of communities. It was a network of visionaries who combined art, science, and spirituality to create some of the most remarkable achievements in ancient North America. Their earthworks, artifacts, and trade networks represent a society that values connection, creativity, and collaboration. Though their culture faded over 1,500 years ago, the Hopewell's legacy endures, reminding us of the ingenuity and resilience of indigenous peoples. The Mississippian culture, 800 C. 1600 CE, the Empire Builders. The Mississippian culture represents pre-Columbian North America's most advanced and complex civilizations, rising around 800 CE and thriving until the 1600s. The Mississippians built vast cities, elaborate mounds, and sprawling trade networks. Their achievements in agriculture, engineering, and governance rivaled those of ancient civilizations in other parts of the world. However, the Mississippian culture was also marked by challenges, from internal conflict to the eventual arrival of European explorers. Let's look at the society transforming the southeastern United States into a cultural and political innovation hub. Who were the Mississippians? The Mississippian culture wasn't a single kingdom or empire, but a network of city-states that shared common traditions, religions, and economic practices. These city-states were spread across the southeastern United States, from the Mississippi River Valley to parts of the Midwest and Southeast. The Mississippians were skilled agriculturalists who relied heavily on maize, a crop introduced to the region centuries earlier. Their farming methods allowed them to support large, dense populations in cities like Cahokia, Moundville, and Etowah. But what set the Mississippians apart was their ability to organize complex societies. They established hierarchical governance systems, with influential leaders often seen as divine or semi-divine figures. This combination of agriculture, social structure, and religion created the foundation for their thriving civilization. Cahokia, the heart of the Mississippian world. Cahokia, located near modern-day St. Louis, Missouri, was central to the Mississippian culture. At its height around 1100 CE, Cahokia was the largest city in North America, with a population of up to 20,000 people. This made it more significant than many contemporary European cities at the time. Monk Mound. The centerpiece of Cahokia was the Monk Mound, a massive earthen platform that stands over 100 feet tall and covers more ground than the Great Pyramid of Giza. This monumental structure likely served as the residence of the city's leader or as a ceremonial temple. Building Monk Mound required moving millions of cubic feet of earth, a feat accomplished without using metal tools, draft animals, or wheels. The Grand Plaza adjacent to Monk's Mound was the Grand Plaza, an ample open space for public gatherings, ceremonies, and sports. One popular activity was Chunky, a game that involved rolling a stone disc and throwing spears to land closest to where it stopped. This game wasn't just entertainment but a way to build community and resolve disputes. Woodhenge Cahokia also featured a fascinating astronomical structure known as Woodhenge, a circle of wooden posts marking the solstices and equinoxes. This shows that the Mississippians had a sophisticated understanding of astronomy, which they likely used to guide agricultural practices and religious ceremonies. The mounds, centers of power and ritual, the Mississippian culture is best known for its mounds, which were far more than simple piles of earth. These mounds served as platforms for temples, residences for leaders, and burial sites for important individuals. There were three main types of mounds in Mississippian culture: platform mounds, flat-top mounds used for ceremonial or residential purposes. Monk Mound is the most famous example. Conical mounds, rounded mounds, are often used as burial sites, containing grave goods like pottery, tools, and ornaments. Effigy mounds, mounds shaped like animals or symbols, were less common among the Mississippians than in earlier cultures like the Hopewell. The construction of these mounds required significant organization and labor. Entire communities likely worked together to move and compact the soil, reflecting the collective effort and shared beliefs of Mississippian society. Society and governance. Mississippian society was highly stratified, with a clear hierarchy that placed the ruling elite at the top. Leaders were often seen as divine or intermediaries between the people and the gods. This religious authority gave them significant power to organize labor, enforce laws, and oversee trade and diplomacy. The role of chiefs. At the heart of each city-state was a chief who wielded political and spiritual authority. Chiefs lived in grand structures atop platform mounds, symbolizing their elevated status. They presided over ceremonies, resolved disputes, and directed large-scale construction projects. Commoners and specialists below the ruling elite were the commoners, who formed the backbone of Mississippian society. They were farmers, laborers, and artisans who contributed to the community's survival and prosperity. Some individuals specialized in crafting tools, pottery, or ornaments, often producing intricate designs that reflected Mississippian culture and beliefs. Religion and rituals. Religion was central to Mississippian life, influencing everything from politics to agriculture. The Mississippians worshipped a pantheon of gods associated with nature, fertility, and the cosmos. One of their most important deities was the birdman, a figure often depicted in their art as a combination of a human and a bird. The birdman was associated with the sun, warfare, and the renewal of life. The Mississippian culture shared many religious symbols and practices with other indigenous groups in the southeastern United States. This shared system, known as the Southeastern Ceremonial Complex, included motifs like the sun, circles, and animals such as snakes and birds. These symbols appear in Mississippian art, pottery, and mound designs, highlighting the interconnectedness of their spiritual and cultural traditions. Trade and economy. The Mississippians were at the center of an extensive trade network that connected them to regions as far away as the Great Lakes, the Gulf Coast, and the Rocky Mountains. Archaeologists have found a wide variety of goods at Mississippian sites, including copper from the Great Lakes was used to create tools and ornaments. Shells from the Gulf of Mexico are shaped into beads and decorative items. Obsidian from the Rocky Mountains, valued for its sharp edges and used to craft tools. Mica from the Appalachian Mountains is often used in ceremonial contexts. This trade network provided material wealth and facilitated the exchange of ideas, technologies, and cultural practices. The Mississippian world's interconnectedness was a key factor in its ability to maintain large, complex societies. While the Mississippians achieved incredible feats, their civilization faced significant challenges. The growing population of cities like Cahokia placed immense pressure on local resources. Overfarming, deforestation, and soil depletion may have contributed to environmental strain, making it harder to sustain large urban centers. Social tensions also likely played a role. Mississippian society's hierarchical structure created divisions between the elite and the commoners, which may have led to unrest. Warfare between rival city-states was common as leaders competed for resources, territory, and prestige. By the time Europeans arrived in the 16th century, many Mississippian cities had already been abandoned. Historians believe environmental changes, resource depletion, and internal conflicts weaken society. However, the arrival of Europeans dealt the final blow. Diseases like smallpox and measles spread rapidly through indigenous populations, killing millions and devastating entire communities before Europeans even made direct contact. The survivors faced additional challenges as European settlers encroached on their lands, disrupting their way of life. Although the Mississippian culture declined, its influence lives on. The descendants of the Mississippians, including the Cherokee, Choctaw, and Creek, preserved many aspects of their traditions and beliefs. The mounds themselves remain as enduring monuments to their ingenuity and vision. Sites like Cahokia Mound State Historic Site, Moundville Archaeological Park, and Etowah Indian Mounds offer glimpses into their world, helping us understand and appreciate their achievements. Modern researchers continue to study Mississippian culture, uncovering new insights into their society and its impact on North American history. The Mississippians weren't just farmers or builders, they were visionaries who transformed their environment into a landscape of monumental cities, spiritual centers, and thriving trade networks. Their achievements remind us of the incredible potential of human ingenuity and collaboration, even amid immense challenges. The decline of the mound builder cultures is one of history's great mysteries. For centuries, their achievements were overshadowed or dismissed by early European settlers who couldn't believe that indigenous people had created such sophisticated structures. This dismissal led to the spread of myths, including the idea that the mounds were built by a lost race or even ancient visitors from across the ocean. These myths ignored the clear evidence of indigenous ingenuity and persistence. Today, we know that the mound builders were Native American cultures with deep ties to their land and a profound understanding of engineering, astronomy, and community organization. But their decline reminds us of how fragile even the most advanced societies can be when faced with environmental changes and internal conflicts. The mound builders were more than just architects, they were visionaries who turned earth and stone into monuments that still symbolize human ingenuity. Their mounds, some thousands of years old, speak to their connection to the land, spirituality, and ability to create thriving societies without modern technology. Although the Adena, Hopewell, and Mississippian cultures may have faded, their legacy endures, offering a glimpse into a world as rich and complex as any other ancient civilization. Watch the following video to learn how Native Americans shaped the land before European contact.